Well, I went up to heaven one morning in May. Angel said, where do you come from and where do you stay? Well, I told them from Wigan, they all did stir. They said, come in, lad, you're welcome, you're the first one from there. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. My Auntie Kitty, she made a rice pud, and when it were finished, she said it were good. But she'd made it in kettle, and we couldn't get it out, so we all had to have a turn sucking it up through the spout. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. I went out walking with my Uncle Jim. Some bugger threw a tomato at him. Tomatoes are soft and they won't break the skin, but this bugger did, it was wrapped in a tin. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. My Uncle Albert, he was fond of a stunt. He walked out one day with his coat back to front. The Pemberton tram come and knocked Albert down. Well, he would have been saved, but they turned his head round. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. I went to my fiancee's, her name was Miss Brown. She was having a bath and she couldn't come down. She shouts, I'll just slip on summit, I'll be down in a tick. But she slipped on the soap and come down bloody quick. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. Tooraloo, tooralay, all the cream of society walked down our way. Now, being from Wigan and Lancashire, still in Lancashire, it's Palatine County. You know what one of these is, don't you? Yeah. I've not been on some with her out. It's called the Shuttle, and they were quite popular down Walgate in a couple of mills. And you get a bobbin full of weft, goes in there, close it down. I've not got a bobbin in any weft, but what you had to do was thread it in an hole down there, turn it round, suck it up, pull it through with your teeth, and that was kissing the shuttle, threading the weft into the shuttle. And it was a pretty dangerous thing because the weft was coated with insecticide, so that mice, cockroaches and rats would suffer a hideous death if they ate it. It also had lubricating oils, so it wouldn't snag in the loom and break and spoil the weave. And it also had different sizes and everything. So it could cause, repeated kissing the shuttle could cause throat cancer, it could boils, gum disease, they lost their teeth early. So it was pretty bad. And this is called the Shuttle Kissing Song. It's a bit of Black Lancashire humour. Although kissing the shuttle was quite dangerous, I mean, people had a laugh about it. Also, when the girls started wearing lipstick in the 1900s, they were a perfect vehicle for scarlet fever because they were never clean. So it's called the Shuttle Kissing Song. Now Matilda Curly-Toppin was a weaver and a lass, and she did a share of laughing and earned a share of brass. She kissed a share of shuttles too, but if that no but let her, she'd rather pass the time away kissing somewhat better. Now Matilda had a tackler, and it getting fine and free, with bonny Curly-Toppin, and he kept her in his ear. And that fella fairly pestered her, blighted all her days, and she had getting tired of his slimy little ways. Matilda Curly-Toppin was a weaver and a lass, and she did a sure a laughing and earned a sure a brass. And she kissed a sure a shuttles too, but if that no but let her, well, I'd rather pass the time away in kissing somewhat better. She couldn't budge an inch, it was always at her heels, following her through factory and going for her meals. One day when she were fetching a new shuttle from his bench, he blurted out, "Matilda, thou a greatly pretty wench. Well, I cannot stand to see thee kissing shuttles all thy life, so if I was to ask thee, would you come and be my wife? You could give me all your kisses, 'cause I'm sure there's many left, and I'll make a patent thing of me for sucking up your weft." And Matilda Curly-Toppin was a weaver and a lass, and did a sure a laughing and earned a sure a brass. And she kissed a sure a shuttles too, but if that no but let her, well, I'd rather pass the time away kissing somewhat better. At that Matilda cocked her eye and shook her curly head. Then she gave a little smile and shook her head and said, "Well, I'm very flattered with all your promises and vows, and yet I cannot marry thee, 'cause that's a bloody foe. I'm sick of being single and I'm sick of sucking weft. My teeth are getting rotten and I have many left. But I must thank you for your offer, which I sadly must decline, 'cause I'd rather kiss a shuttle than kiss a face like thine." Matilda Curly-Toppin was a weaver and a lass, and she did a sure a laughing and earned a sure a brass. And she kissed a sure a shuttles too, but if that no but let her, well, I'd rather pass the time away kissing somewhat better. She'd rather pass the time away in kissing somewhat better. Right, we've had a good laugh about the dark humour of working in a factory and the bad practices they have put up with you. But I was in a care home once, a good few years ago. I do a few of that, entertainments in care homes and nostalgic songs. And I got chatting to a few of them. I did a couple of Mills songs, and it turns out there were quite a few of them with Mills, and I made a few bullet points after about the conversation, and I wrote this poem. Just have a bit of neck oil. It's called Work, Warp and Weft. Now, if you're not conversant with looms, if you stood a loom on its end, the warp goes vertical and the weft comes across, backwards and forwards, horizontal in shuttle. So, work, warp and weft. No daylight I was left, trudging back down that cobble lane, joints all full of ache and pain. I think I was just 11 years old when I travelled down them cobbles half a mile to punch me card and sign my life away with the ranks of mill workers on meagre pay. The knocker up came, the ute wailed, as the weavers and spinners to the mill they trailed, the doffers and piecers just out of school, trudging to obey the factory rules. Dust and lint floats like a winter snow. The workers, they breathe it in as they rush to and fro, bringing shuttles and bobbins, cottons and cops from the storehouse to the different shops. The jennies and mules keep on spinning the thread, then the cotton is taken to the weaving shed, where the power looms rattle and the shuttles do fly. Some sick workers go home to die. Cotton dust fever, the weaver's brown lung, it can catch 'em old, it can catch 'em young. Coughing and wheezing, fighting for air, they have to keep going, the masters don't care. Kissing the shuttles to suck through the weft. Soon the weavers won't have any teeth left, for the weft is treated with sizes and oils. It causes mouth problems, abscesses and boils. Now I've retired, and I'm not fit for much. Coughing and wheezing, lent on a crutch. Me hearing has gone with a loom's hard rattle. Me life with King Cotton has been a long hard battle. It's warp and weft, no daylight hours left. Trudging back down that cobble lane, joints all full of aches and pain. Thank you very much, I'll see you in a bit. You all remember when you were kids and you went on Shara? On back seat and they'd all start singing. What do you sing? We're off in a motor car, that was one of them. So that's the chorus, but it used to be 60 bobbies. But there's been that many cutbacks in Greater Manchester Force, I've cut it down to 20, so it's 20 bobbies are after us. And it's all about some rum things that happen around Scows, or Skulls, if you're from Warrington. I'm starting a course at Warrington Tech Lancashire dialect from because the panning for Lancashire were being stuck in North Cheshire. On the croft, where we used play pitch and toss, and a bobby tried to chase us away. So I hit him o'er the head with a bloody great lump of lead, and the slimy little bugger ran away. And what are we? Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies are after us, we don't know where we are. Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies are after us, and we don't know where we are. I was standing on the corner, eating a Prater pie. A bobby asked for a skinny bit, so I poked him in the eye. He went and told me mother wouldn't come. I went and put me clogs on and kicked him up the bum. And now we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, we don't know where we are. Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, we don't know where we are. Now the night were dark and stormy, rain fell from the clouds. Tram was on its journey from Marketplace to Scows. A dog running the tram lines, driver rung his bell. Dog didn't tease his signal, now he's on his way to Hardy. But we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, we don't know where we are. Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, we don't know where we are. Me father did a hero, his bravery made me blush. They were giving me free beer at Crispin, and me dad were Celtic Crush. Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, we don't know where we are. Oh, we're off in a motor car. 20 bobbies after us, and we don't know where we are. Beavers and bulldogs sitting on a wall, selling horse muck, penny a ball. Thank you. I thought I'd start the second half with a bit of culture. Now, for this one, you've got to use your imaginations, because you've got to imagine that I'm a nubile, seductive mill girl. So, if I put a cap on, will it? Anyway, what key do I do this in? I'll do it down there. And it's called the Eckersley's Mill. And it's got a refrain at the end of each verse. Now, in folk music, a refrain means you do. Where you used to get on buzzing, it says, passengers, please refrain from spitting. 5 shilling fine. See bylaws. Or else... there's all sorts of places a refrain, but if a folk song's got a refrain, it means you sing last line. So it's in the shade of the Eckersley's Mill. In the shade of the Eckersley's Mill, it's enough to make anyone ill. For the reeling is rotten, and so is the cotton. We'll have to give Gaffer a pill. And when th' overlooker comes round, and he makes all those doffers stand down. He'll say, now get up and go tie your ends up in the shade of the Eckersley's Mill. He'll say, hey, get up and go tie your ends up in the shade of the Eckersley's Mill. Our stockings are all full of holes, and our clogs, they are losing their souls. Our shawls are all worn and our petticoats torn. We'd be better off digging the coal. And you can't see your hands for the lint. On payday we're all bloody skint. But we don't give a jot, we're a jolly fine lot. We're the girls from the Eckersley's Mill. Oh, we don't give a jot, a jolly fine lot. We're the girls from the Eckersley's Mill. And I wish payday Friday would come, and we'd have some bloody good fun. For each Friday night we go out and get tight, and our worries and curs are all done. And when we've spent all our brass, and payday it comes at last, we'll say, I forgot the last line, haven't I? I remember forgetting this line a couple of weeks ago. And me and our Jack, we'd better get back to the shade of the Eckersley's Mill. And me and our Jack, we'd better get back to the shade of the Eckersley's Mill. Now that was part of the act. You'll all sit there watching telly and Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hotel Swap this stick on, and you never see a mistake, because all mistakes are edited out, so I'm glad I put that one in. You know what a mistake is now? What's next then? After them couple of daft ones, I'm going to do a serious one. This song was written in the recession after Waterloo, leading up to the Peterloo massacre and the unrest and the Reform Act. And it was called John o' Greenfield, and he was an handloom weaver. But when the American Civil War started and the cotton famine took hold, and the mills shut, and the mills were the main customers for the collieries, so the collieries shut, and Lancashire was thrown into a massive recession. People were actually starving. And they weren't just hungry, they were starving. And this song was resurrected, but albeit abridged. It was now called the Four-Loom Weaver. Now, a four-loom weaver was a highly skilled weaver who ran four looms, and they were well paid and sought after. Most of them were highly skilled handloom weavers who went into the mills. So that's what a four-loom weaver is. I'm a four-loom weaver, as everyone knows. I've no tate and I've worn out my clothes. My clogs, they're both broken, my stockings I've none. They'd hardly give me twopence for all I've geet on. Old Billy at Bent's has been telling me long, we mun have had better times if that air held the tongue. But he held me tongue till I near lost me breath, and I feel in me heart as I'll soon clem to death. I'm a four-loom weaver, as many a mon knows. I've no tate and I've worn out my clothes. Clogs are both broken and stockings I've none. And you don't hardly give me twopence for all I've geet on. Sir declares if it clothes to put on, she'd go down to London to see the great ones. And if things didn't alter when there she had been, she reckons she'd fate with blood up to thin. I'm a four-loom weaver, as many a mon knows. I've no tate and haven't worn out my clothes. My clogs are both gone, I've no loom weave on, and I've woven myself to the parish. I have woven myself to the parish. I've woven myself to the parish. We'll go back to you, Mick. I don't want you all crying on Christmas Day. I'll do that after. Right, you might remember in 1807 there was a cataclysmic event which ended up changing transport as we know it. Napoleon crossed the Pyrenees, invaded Spain, deposed the King of Spain and put his brother on the throne of Spain. The French were moving towards the Portuguese border, so Britain sent the expeditionary force over. That's what remember sharps were rifles and all that. It was called the Peninsular War. They were fighting through deserts and mountains and all sorts of terrain, and they were sequestrating and commandeering horses at an alarming rate. The toll in horses was probably as much as the toll in soldiers. And in 1811, they were unable to get the coal from the pitheads. They were having to use manual labour to push the trucks, and even the pit ponies had been commandeered. So there was a race on to build the first locomotive. There was Blenkinsop in Yorkshire, there was Dalgleish at Hay Foundry, Wigan, and there was Trevithick in Swansea. And everyone said we won, but we all knew we won, don't we? It was James Dalgleish at Hay Foundry. And yeah. And the first one went from the Blundell collieries up Orrell and Winstonley Way down to the canal at Crook. That path's still there. If you go outside of Barnsley's, that path is the actual tramway, and the old bridge over the Dugg is still there, and it's probably one of the loveliest stretches at Dugg. And then a Scotchman came on the scene in about 1818, and he started getting all these ideas and jumbled it all up, and he made a bigger locomotive, which was a Stephenson's rocket. And then that transported from town to town, not just the pit to the cut. It was going from town to town. And then they decided, we can't take passengers on this, so they built a passenger train. And they'd go from town to town, and when train stopped, they'd all go running off. All the fellas would line up behind wall. And all the women had the crinolines and the God knows what, and the roots and the petticoats, and they were all snookered. So they had a plan to put toilets on trains. It's all leading into this song. And when people when it was on the station, when train drove off, it was just an hole in floor with a seated thing on top of it. So they banned you using the toilet in the train. So they had this sign, and that word comes in, refrain. Said, please refrain from using the toilet when the train is in the station. And this song is based on that sign. It's got a lovely chorus which goes, dumpy. Let's get key right first. If I started in t'other, there'd have been dogs and dolphins listening to it. And it goes, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Don't forget the paper, dumpy doodle deedle diddle. Now, a lot of people like Irish folk music, so this is special for them. Skithery idle doodle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. And this chorus is compulsory. Now, gentlemen must please refrain from passing water when the train is standing on the station for a while. When the train is on the station, we encourage constipation. Cross your legs and grit your teeth and smile all together. Dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Don't forget the paper, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, skitherly idle doodle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Now, drinking while the train is moving is another way of proving that control of eye and hand are sure. We like our clients to be neat, but please don't splash it on the seat and don't get puddles on the floor all together now. Dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Don't forget the paper, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, skitherly idle doodle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Now, ladies wishing to pass water, kindly go and ask the porter to place a vessel in the vestibule. Off engineers underneath, get it in the her and in the teeth, and they don't like it, neither I think would you. And it's dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Don't forget the paper, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, skithery idle doodle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Honeymooners in the carriage, do not consummate your marriage while the train is standing here at Crewe. If you must do your natural function, could you wait till Clapham Junction, though there's really sod all else to do? And it's dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Don't forget the paper, dumpy doodle deedle diddle, skithery idle doodle diddle, dumpy doodle deedle diddle do. Thank you. While we're on trains, I'm out of the Blackpool Bell, aren't I? Back in the 60s and early 70s, people used to go to Blackpool, some like the nightclub, the Mecca, opposite Blackpool Borough Rugby Ground, or was it Bloomfield Road Dog Track? And so you could make a day of it, and you could get home on Milk Train, which was the train which was, there was one went to Bolton and one went through Wigan to Warrington. So yeah, try and think of something to do till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then catch the Milk Train. And at Bolton, they called it the Blackpool Bell, and a wonderful character, an amazing songwriter and a great piano player, Howard Broadbent. He's always in the Communist Club in Boughton, Bolton Socialist Club. That's a cracking. We did International Workers' Day once though, and there was all these socialist worker folk. I think the last job was a milk monitor at school, and there were grey arts folk. They were amazing. But I could sing all my work songs and everything like that, you know, and they lapped them up. And so it's worth going just for that. And Thales cheap as well. Now the Blackpool Bell was a getaway train, and it went from northern stations. What a lovely sight on a Saturday night, it was off to the illuminations. No mothers and dads, just girls and lads, young and fancy free, all for a night on the Golden Mile in Blackpool by the sea. And I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine as we rode on the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. Little Piggy Greenfield, he was there, he was thinking he were mighty slick. He got a hat on the Golden Mile, and the hat said, "Kiss me quick." Now Piggy was a lad for all the girls, but he drank too much beer, and he made a pass at a Liverpool lass, and she threw him off the pier. And I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine as I ride on the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. Now this verse has too many words in, so if I collapse, please come to me aid. Ice cream Sally, well, she never settled down, and she lived for a Knickerbocker glory. Fell for a bloke, although was broke, she loved his ice cream story. Sally took it in with a smile and grin and fell for Sailor Jack, but he buggered off to the Isle of Man and never did come back. And I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine as I ride on the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. Well, some of us went on the Golden Mile and some to the Tunnel of Love. Some of us went on the Old North Pier under the stars above. There was always a rush for the midnight train, but we get there just the same. And I made off with a Liverpool lass, but I can't remember her name. I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine as I ride on the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. Now the Blackpool Bell has 1,000 tales, and all of them must be told. Many of them I will recall as I am growing old. They were happy days, I recall the times when we pulled the curtains down, and the passion wagon would steam back home and we'd all go into town. I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine as I ride on the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. I'm just going to throw another industrial song, and this was written somewhere in the South Lancashire coalfield. I'm not sure where. It was Anon, that famous songwriter. And it was when the miners' federations could be picked off one by one in a strike because it wasn't unified. So, and they were campaigning for one national trade union rather than independent miners' federations. I'll just take guitar for this. It's a song called Wicking in a 3-Foot Seam. Now don't you think they're making you a gift? They'll pay a bloody pittance for a shift. And while you're sweating out your soul for every ton of coal, there's 2 tons of dirt and rock you have to shift. And you're working in a 3-foot seam. I'll tell you boys, life is not a dream. For there's no joy to be found when you're 2 mile underground and you're working in a 3-foot seam. Up above the ground the weather may be fine, but you're stuck there where no sun does ever shine, and you're crawling like a rat. In your heart you're wishing that you were any place except down in the mine. You're working in a 3-foot seam. I'll tell you boys, life is not a dream. And there's no joys to be found 2 miles underground, and you're working in a 3-foot seam. These bad conditions have prevailed for far too long. So join the union, then we cannot be far wronged. Then together we can tell the bosses, go to hell. For our union voice is many thousand strong. And you're working in a 3-foot seam. I'll tell you boys, life is not a dream, and there's no joy to be found 2 miles underground, and you're working in a 3-foot seam. Thank you. This is a song and a poem what I wrote. I was born in Walgate, in Wilcox Street, and I lived for a few years of my life there, and we moved out to Walgate. I thought we were dead posh. It was a detached house. They knocked rest at road down, but we had to go. And we ended up in Shevington, and then later on I ended up in Lowground and Beach Hill. And I started working in Clayton Street many years after, and I had a walk around Walgate. And there was a bit of Sharp Street, but that only lasted another year because they built the Volkswagen dealership there across Walgate, and the Sharp Street Park became First Class what is First Class Motors? That became their car compound, and where we were born in Wilcox Street, that was totally flattened, so there was nothing left of it. So after that walk, I wrote this, and then a little bit later, I wrote a poem, and to do it as a preamble to this song. It goes like this. In Wigans Streets, the people mourn. The mood is sombre and forlorn. There now has started a war of attrition. The council call it demolition as the terraced houses down are torn in Wigans Streets. The residents, like the birds, have flown. Now you hear a deathly moan. Although for mercy the people did petition, the planners stoutly didn't change the decision in Wigans Streets. The army of bulldozers moved into position. Even though many buildings were in good condition, bricks they fell, the timbers did groan, as rafters from the roofs were torn, and brought the end to Wigans Streets. I can remember out Walgate, when I give me memory a jog, the out donkey-stoned white doorsteps, cobbles worn smooth by the clogs. We had grand times there as children. I remember the out Sharp Street Park. We'd play out on swings and play football with other kids having a lark. And Walgate, they've broken your spirit. You're ending up just same as Scouse, with concrete and tarmac approaching, and your people have all been rehoused. Even though Sharp Street Club's now a factory, sewing jackets and gabardine max. Gone are the days after a night on the town when you take a shortcut through the backs. If you look at the streets still surviving, you can count them on your right hand. The rest have got workshops across them. Now the values I can't understand. Walgate, they've broken your spirit. You're ending up just same as Scouse, with the concrete and tarmac approaching, and your people have all been rehoused. They pulled down the church of St. Thomas, leaving a piece of wasteland. They swapped good architecture, stained glass and stone, for breeze block, cement and sand. They just ripped apart a community that grew strong through industrial strife. Demolished our old rows of 2 up, 2 downs, and our out folks' way of life. Walgate, they've broken your spirit. You're ending up just same as Scouse, with the tarmac and concrete approaching, and your people have all been rehoused. Thank you. On and on and on. Right. We'll lighten the mood up a bit now. This is a lovely song. It was discovered by a lad called Cliff Jarrett from Billinge. It was actually written by a St. Helens bloke, but I don't normally announce that into the parts of Wigan because they think it's a Wigan song. So. Now there's an old chap lives there now, a street in a cosy terraced house. On a Sunday morning when it's fine, well, I often goes and sits with him to have a smoke and a chat, because he's such a dear old friend of mine. And when it's getting dinner time and dinner's ready then, I'm thinking, well, I'd best be on my way. But he goes and hangs me cap up behind the old front door, and then to my surprise I'd hear him say, and what does he say? I'm all as glad to see a man like thee. Now thou as welcome, lad, as welcome as can be. Fetch the cheer up to table, stop as long as thou art table, for I'm all as glad to see a man like thee. One day when I was set with him, there came a loud rat-tat. There came a loud rat-tat on Jack's front door. And he hurried over to open it, and there to his surprise, A tattered, hungry beggar stood outside. He asked Jack for a crust of bread. Jack looked him through and through, and then said, "Bless thee heart, lad, come inside." Then he went and hung Jack's pap up behind the out front door, and then to Tramp's surprise he heard Jack say, "I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee. They're as welcome, lad, as welcome as can be. Fetch the cheer up to table, stop as long as thou art table, for I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee." Now get your hankies out, it's sad with this. If you've not got an hanky, serviette out your box. Now this beggar could not eat a bit, and down his pale face streaming, tears come flowing like a shower. And he cried, "Jack, dost not know me, dost not know the long lost brother, these 50 year away, ne'er back again. I've only pulled these clues on, just me lad to try thee, 'cause I'm not poor, I'm rich as on a Jew. And they're welcome to it all, lad, the wife and children too, and that's because me lad I've found thee true. I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee. They're as welcome, lad, as welcome as can be. Fetch the cheer up to table, stop as long as thou art table, for I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee." Now when Jackie had lived long enough, time come for him to die, so he jumped upon the tram for one last ride. He paid right up to terminus, but he got off at the sheds and wandered to them pearly gates inside. He stood with his cap in both his hands, he says, "I've come at last." St. Peter said, "Hi Jack, I see it's thee." Then he went and hung Jack's cap up behind them pearly gates, and then to Jack's surprise he heard him say, "I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee. They're as welcome, lad, as welcome as can be. Fetch the cheer up to table, stop as long as thou art table, for I'm all as glad to see a mon like thee." How are we doing for time? Now, it's got a dead easy chorus, so I'll start with chorus first. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. He was large and fat, he was just like a picture cross with an eel and a boa constrict. Fed him on whiskey which made him frisky on pies and a pint or two. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. Have you got that? I was playing this till the night, and one fellow was doing a Beaumont chorus. I thought, bloody hell, first person who's getting all words, and then I found out he was eating an hot chip. Well, a famous local angling club decided to hold a match. £5 offered as the prize for the one with the best catch. Jack Thompson said for catching fish, good bait is what you need, and so they set at once to work big worms to catch and breed. He fed his pets on powdered milk and baby food and whiskey, and when the contest day drew near, they were all fat and frisky. His favourite worm he called Big Jim, he really was a picture. You'd have thought it crossed a conger reel with a bloody boa constrictor. Deep breath. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. He was large and fat, he was just like a picture cross with an eel and a boa constrictor. Fed him on whiskey which made him frisky on pies and a pint or two. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, a great big beautiful bloody red worm. The contest came, pegs were drawn and soon the fishing started. It seemed a sin to punch a Jim, Jock was broken hearted. But that £5 must be one he'd promised one to his daughter, and so the dirty deed was done and Jim thrown in the water. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. He was large and fat, he was just like a picture crossed with an eel and a boa constrictor. Fed him on which made him frisky on pies and a pint or two. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. Well, some caught, what did they catch now? They have different sorts of fish in different sorts of country. So we'll say it's Wigan for this one. Well, some caught perch and some caught roach and some caught rainbow trout. One caught eels and another caught seals, but most of them caught nout. But Jackie sat there patiently, giving Jim chance to work, and soon the little float did bob, and it gave the line a jerk. Well, the fight went on for hours and hours, he couldn't quench his thirst. When Big Jim being the worm he was, the fish surrendered first. And he got the fish out on the bank and dragged it to the scales. When they saw the fish, they said, "You can chuck that bugger back, we're not accepting whales." Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm, was a great big beautiful bloody red worm. He was large and fat, he was just like a picture crossed with an eel and a boa constrictor. Fed him on which made him frisky on pies and a pint or two. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm. Big Jim was a worm, was a great big worm. A great big beautiful bloody red worm. Hang on. I think I'm getting to the time for me Christmas climax. Now, best rephrase that, haven't I? Well, it's possibly the last thing. This is about a rundown pub with a dubious clientele. Type of pub that has a couple of bouncers throwing drunks in. Quiz night, first questions. Who you bloody stirring up? It's one of them places, you know what I mean? Yeah. You don't come here often, do you? How do you know? You put your bloody ale down. You know. And they have them everywhere. But this is a particularly bad one. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. And I don't want them coming after me. So, and it's called The Man from the Prue. And it's all about insurance men. And it's about Christmas too. It were Christmas Eve in the Pig and Ball Burin. The usual crowd were there, pouring mess in the vino collapso and brasso in the bitter beer. Bald-headed Mabel was tickling thyres and playing piano as well. When lid come down on and runs with a bang, and we all laugh like bloody hell. There was Pick-the-Nose Albert from Burnley, who talked with a terrible limp, and Squint-eyed Lily, the budgie rustler, who had teeth like a mouthful of dimps. We were full of the Christmas spirit that night. We were singing the Christmas songs, while the road outside were full of fog, and the usual boneworks pong. When into the room come a tattered out tramp. "A Merry Christmas to you all," he crooned. And he staggered up to the bar like a man possessed, and he fell head first into the spittoon. We looked at the stranger in silence, 'cause his face, it told a story so old. And he'd nought but a dishcloth and a sugar bag on to keep his knackers from cold. Where was it up to? You look, athlete's foot on the innit. You look like you need a drink out, lad. Athlete's foot on he bawled. Give us a pint of that lunatic soup, said the man, and I'll tell me sad tale to y'all. I once loved a lass, she was handsome, and to please her, I tried all I knew. But one, she were false-hearted, and one moonlit night, she buggered off with mon from Prue. I swore if I catched him, I'd smash up his bike and stuff his pump up his vest. I'd rip up his cap and break his pencil and stuff his back clips down near his grid. Well, they told me he'd taken her to Blackpool on crossbar of the old rally bike. And at number 37, Seaview Terrace, with a telescope in every room, they were living as man and as wife. So I went on my pogo stick, Blackpool. And I searched that bloody town all the way through. But she was nowhere in sight. The love of my life, who'd buggered off with Mum from Prue. Then one night, I catched them. They were at top of tower. They were watching the rising lumps. So I pulled off my Punch and Judy tent and exposed myself. And I said, "Hey up, Mabel, what have you done?" Then I pulled out my big stick of bollock pool rock, which had bollock pool all the way through. And I stuffed it up his left nostril, saying, "Till I get my clogs on, that'll have do." Then I chucked him off the top of the tower. As he fell, he threw his boots at me. But as he fell, his boots fell as well because of the gravity. Then Mabel, she went buckets of grief, saying, "I loved him far more than you." So as fast as I was able, I went to chuck Mabel after a man from Prue. They both landed head first in an ice cream cart. And frozen to death were they. The ice cream man was a high Italian, and sold no more ice cream that day. But as he finished his tale, his eyes looked down, and he let out a blood-curdling roar. I'll do that one again. As he finished his tale, his eyes looked down, and he let out a blood-curdling roar. For there was a face on this puddle of beer, a face on the barroom floor. Slip of the tongue, that. Well, he started sucking the puddle of beer, where the human face could be seen. It was bald-headed in Mabel's reflection, and she let out a blood-curdling scream. "Albert, my love, it's you," she said. "You thought I was dead." But the ice cream, it didn't kill me, it only chilled me and froze all through off my head. Well, they flung themselves into each other's arms, and we all let out a cheer. Yay! And landlord opened blind box and bought us all a beer. Well, Albert and Mabel, they've got married again, and they've opened a barbed wire shop. But the story doesn't have an happy ending, because she's buggered off with Mum from Co-op. Bum-bum. Right, I'm going to finish off with Uncle Joe's mint balls. I'm doing the censored version. I'm not doing the Asphalt Rugby Union Club Captain's Hot Pot Dinner version. That's all. I'll be expelled from society. Can't remember what key you're doing. Let's see. Now there is a place in Wigan, place you all should know, a busy little factory where things are all a-go. They don't make japes or Eccles cakes or things that stick on walls, but night and day they work away on Uncle Joe's mint balls. Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. Away with coughs and snivels, take a few in hand, suck 'em and see, you'll agree they're the best in all the land. Da 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 da. Me dad has always wanted curly hair on his bald head. Go and suck an Uncle Joe's mint ball, that's what the doctor said. He got an Uncle Joe's mint ball, he sucked it all night long. When he got up next morning, he had her all over his tongue. Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. Away with coughs and snivels, take a few in hand, suck 'em and see, you'll agree they're the best in all the land. Da 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 da. If you come in with that, because in between verses I'm trying to think of what verses. I don't often sing this. We give one to the coalman's horse as it stood in the road. It gave a cough but it buggered off with its cart and load. It ran to Haydock races, it were going like a bird. It covered the track in nutty slack and come for second and third. Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. away with coughs and snivels. Take a few in and suck 'em and see. You'll agree they're the best in all the land. Da, da, da. Got a good one. I had a girl, her name was me in passion, she were lacking. So I fed her on whiskey, get her frisky, but still she won't get cracking. I gave to her an Uncle Joe's to get her all aglow. Now she walks the streets of Wigan, looking for Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. Away with coughs and snivels, take a few in and suck 'em and see. You will agree they're the best in all the land. Da, 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 da. No, I can't sing that one. Wigan were away, they were in Witness Town. They looked upon when his face he had a great big frown. He said, get them tackles in, me lads, score some tries and goals. They said, sod off with your tactics, Sean, give those Uncle Joe's. Oh, Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. Away with coughs and snivels, take a few in and suck 'em and see. You'll agree they're the best in all the land. Da, 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 da. Getting it? RSPCA bought 4 ton of Uncle Joe's to give to all them animals to keep 'em all aglow. The parrot now is 6'4", a cat is 8'3", and all them progress monkeys are as happy as can be. Oh, Uncle Joe's mint balls keep you all aglow. Give 'em to your granny and watch the bugger go. Away with coughs and snivels, take a few in and suck 'em and see. You'll agree they're the best in all the land. Thanks very much for having me, Belton.